The words she said cut through the room like a knife. How do you even call that a job? Everyone froze, eyes shifting towards me as her laughter echoed off the walls. But that's not the worst part. The worst part? It wasn't just anyone mocking me. It was my sister. And what she didn't know was that the man who was about to walk into that room would change everything. For her. You might be thinking, why didn't you just stand up for yourself? But it wasn't that simple. The thing is, we grew up in a family where everything was about status. Jobs, careers, degrees. Those were the only things that mattered. And my sister? Well, she's always been the golden child, the one with the perfect job. She worked in finance, had a corner office, and an income that could easily put her at the top of any social circle. And me? I worked in a field that people rarely understood. Freelancing, making a living through content creation. To most people, it was just the internet. To my sister, it was a joke. That night, though, something shifted. I wasn't the shy, insecure younger sibling anymore. Not after what happened next. You see, that dinner, the one where my sister decided to humiliate me in front of the entire family, was the moment everything changed. But before I dive into how it all went down, let me take you back a few weeks. Growing up, we were always compared. It didn't matter how hard I worked or how successful I became in my own right. If I didn't have the right title, the right salary, I was less than. My sister would never let me forget it. I don't know how you do it, she'd say, twisting the knife. You could be doing so much more if you just had a real job. That's what hurt the most. She never saw me, never understood what I did. The people who came into my world didn't see it either. And when I tried to explain it, she'd just smile, as if she already knew it wasn't going to last. But back to the dinner. The table was set, our parents, aunts, uncles, everyone there. The usual chatter was going on, but there was tension in the air. My sister had been getting more and more condescending lately, ever since she got that promotion at work. She'd been rubbing it in everyone's face, acting like she was untouchable. That night, though, she went too far. So, what's the latest project you're working on, sis? She asked, her voice dripping with sarcasm. I could feel everyone's eyes on me. I was about to explain the project I'd been working on when she interrupted. Right, like that even counts as a project. How do you even call that a job? The table went silent. It wasn't just me who heard it. It was everyone. The laughter that followed wasn't just uncomfortable, it was degrading. And for a moment, I felt like shrinking into the floor. But then, the door opened, and that's when everything shifted. You'll want to stick around because you won't believe who walked in next. And what happened when they did. This is where it gets interesting, but before we go there, let me ask you, what would you have done in my place? The door swung open, and in walked a man none of us expected. He wasn't just any man, he was her boss. The boss. The guy she'd been bragging about for weeks, the one who signed off on her promotion, the one who held all the power over her future at the company. And just like that, the room fell into an eerie silence. He glanced around, his eyes landing on her, and then, something I'll never forget. He made a beeline for me. I could see my sister's face turn pale, her smile vanishing in an instant. She didn't see him coming, but I did. I had been through enough corporate dinners to recognize the tension in the air. There was something off about him, something different from the usual polite office chatter. The moment he reached the table, he nodded at my sister and turned his attention to me. "I'm sorry," he said, his tone calm but sharp, "but I've been meaning to talk to you." My sister's face went from shock to disbelief. "What?" she stammered. "Why?" "I heard what you said," he continued, his voice unwavering. The entire room was staring now. Everyone was listening. It felt like time slowed down, and I could feel the weight of the moment on my chest. "The way you treated your sister, it's not okay." At that, the color drained from my sister's face. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. My heart was pounding in my chest. Was this really happening? She, the one who had always belittled me, the one who had always looked down on my career, was now being called out by the very person she thought was untouchable. Her boss. And not just any boss, but the one who could destroy her career with a single sentence. "You've been laughing at her, mocking her career path," he continued. "I thought you'd be better than that, but it looks like I was wrong." You could hear a pin drop. The tension was so thick in the air that it felt suffocating. My sister was sputtering, trying to regain control of the situation. The, that's not what I. Actually, he cut her off. I don't think you understand how this looks, do you? He turned to the rest of the family. Let me make something clear to everyone here. What your sister does is valid. It's real work. She's building a business, a brand. She doesn't need to explain herself to anyone, but it's clear to me now that some people in this room don't get that. The sting of his words hit like 100 needles in my sister's pride. And honestly, I couldn't help but feel a little bit of satisfaction in that moment. But just when I thought she might break down, the twist came. She tried to compose herself, but the cracks were showing. You can't just... Actually, he interrupted again. I think I can. This behavior is unacceptable. And just so you know, I'm sending an official warning to HR about your unprofessional conduct. This kind of behavior, especially coming from someone in your position, won't be tolerated. The room froze. My sister, my big sister, the one who had always looked down on me, the one who thought she was better than everyone, was now in danger of losing everything she had worked so hard for. All because of her cruelty towards me. You could see her panic rising. Her eyes darted around the room, looking for a way to deflect the shame, the judgment. But it was too late. Her boss had already sealed her fate. As he turned to leave, he looked back over his shoulder and added, I'll be expecting an apology from you, to your sister, and to the rest of the family. With that, he was gone. And just like that, everything changed. My sister, who had once made me feel small, insignificant, like I wasn't worth anything, was now the one who had to face the consequences, the one who had to apologize. But that wasn't the end. Not by a long shot. What happened next? Well, it's something you have to see to believe. You won't believe how my sister responded to this humiliation and how I took control of the situation. But before we get there, let me ask you this. What would you have done if you were in my sister's shoes? Would you have apologized or tried to fight back? You'd think after something like that, being publicly called out by her boss in front of the whole family, my sister would have cooled down, maybe even apologized. But no, not her, not Rebecca. Instead, she doubled down. The second her boss left, she turned to me with eyes like daggers. Did you plan that? She hissed, voice low, sharp, and filled with rage. Did you set me up? Everyone at the table just sat there, stunned. My mother looked like she was about to pass out. My uncle dropped his fork mid-bite. But me? I didn't flinch. I met her gaze and said, I didn't need to plan anything. You did this to yourself. She stood up, knocking her chair back. Her perfectly curated composure was gone, replaced by raw panic and anger. You think you're so clever, just because you've got a few followers online, suddenly you're better than me? And there it was. It wasn't just about the dinner or the joke. This had been building for years. The truth was, Rebecca didn't just look down on my job. She resented that I had found success on my own terms, without the corporate grind, without sacrificing my mental health, without needing validation from some company that could fire you over dinner. She stormed out of the room, and everyone sat there awkwardly. I took a deep breath, trying to steady my hands under the table. I wasn't going to let her spin this. Not anymore. I turned to my dad and said, in case anyone's wondering, no, I didn't plan this, but I'm done pretending I need to prove myself. And that's when something unexpected happened. My cousin, quiet, soft-spoken Rachel, spoke up. Honestly, I think what you're doing is amazing. She looked around. I watch your channel. I've learned so much from your videos. You're the reason I started my own side business. That caught everyone off guard. My aunt chimed in too. Wait, you're that channel? The one that got featured in Forbes? Heads turned. I nodded slowly. Yeah, that's me. Suddenly the energy shifted. My uncle leaned in. Wait a minute, you're the one who did the brand deal with that green tech startup? That was a huge campaign. You were trending for days. People started pulling out their phones, searching for my handle. My notifications were blowing up. Someone pulled up a YouTube short I posted that week. It had just passed 2 million views. My family, who had never taken the time to ask, never tried to understand, finally saw me for what I was. Not just the younger sibling with a weird job, but a creator, a strategist, an entrepreneur. Someone who had built something from the ground up. And the best part? They were finally listening. But not Rebecca. When she came back into the room 10 minutes later, her face was red, eyes puffed. I don't know what happened outside. Maybe she was crying, maybe calling someone at work. But when she walked in, the air was different. She tried to act like nothing had happened, but everyone could feel it. She sat down slowly, quietly. Then, almost in a whisper, she said, "Can I talk to you privately?" I nodded. We stepped out into the hallway. She looked around to make sure no one was within earshot, then turned to me, arms crossed. "Look," she started. "I might have overreacted." "That's it? After years of mockery? After humiliating me at the table? After being called out by her boss?" "Overreacted?" I didn't say anything. She continued, I didn't think this would get so out of hand. I didn't expect him to show up, let alone say that. I mean, who does that?" I finally responded. "You made your choices, Rebecca. You thought what I did wasn't real. You made fun of it in front of everyone. And now you're embarrassed because someone finally called you out." She flinched. Then something broke in her. Her voice cracked. "You don't understand. I'm already on thin ice at work. That warning might cost me my promotion." I stared at her, not unkindly, but firmly. "Then maybe it's time you learn what it feels like to be looked down on, because that's how you've treated me my whole life." She was quiet for a long time. For the first time, really, she had nothing to say. But what happened after that? That's where the real twist comes in. Because a few days later, she reached out again. Not out of guilt, not out of pity, but with a proposal that shocked me to my core. You're not going to believe what she asked me next, and how I responded might just be the most powerful decision I've ever made. A few days after that tense dinner and the hallway confrontation, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Rebecca. I stared at the screen, heart pounding. After years of rivalry, mockery, and silence between us, she was reaching out. Her message was simple but shocking. "Can we talk? I need your help." I almost didn't respond. My mind raced. Was this some kind of trap? Or maybe she just wanted to save face? But I replied anyway. We agreed to meet at a quiet cafe the next afternoon. When I got there, she was already waiting, nervously sipping her coffee. The confident, arrogant woman from the dinner was nowhere to be seen. Instead, she looked vulnerable, tired, almost defeated. "I'm serious," she began, voice low. "I messed up. That warning from HR, it's worse than I thought. My promotion's on hold. If I don't fix things, I might even lose my job." I nodded slowly. "So, what do you want from me?" She swallowed hard, then said something I never expected. "I want to learn. I want to understand how you built your business, your career. You're good at this. I've been so blind, so focused on what I thought was important, I never saw how hard you worked." Imagine that. My sister, the same one who mocked me in front of everyone, was now asking me for guidance. In that moment, something shifted between us. I could have said no. I could have held on to the bitterness, the pain of all those years. But instead, I decided to take the high road. I said, "All right, but only if you promise to stop belittling what I do, to respect it as real work." She nodded eagerly, relief flooding her face. Over the next few months, I mentored her. I showed her how to build a personal brand, how to leverage social media, how to create content that connects with people. I introduced her to some of my contacts. We collaborated on a few projects. It wasn't easy. There were still moments of tension, of frustration. But slowly, something beautiful grew from the ashes of our rivalry. Respect. Our family noticed too. The awkward tension dissolved. Our parents stopped comparing us, and even Rebecca started to see me as an equal, maybe even a leader in my field. Here's the thing. This whole story isn't just about my sister mocking my job or her boss stepping in. It's about how we define success and who gets to decide what real work means. How often do we dismiss what we don't understand? How many times have we underestimated someone because their path looks different from ours? I learned that day something powerful. Respect is earned through authenticity, not titles. and sometimes the greatest victories come from extending grace to those who doubted us the most. So here's my challenge to you. If someone in your life has ever doubted or mocked your work or dreams, don't just fight back. Show them why you're worth respect. Build your legacy so loudly it can't be ignored. And if you're the one doing the doubting, maybe it's time to take a step back and see the bigger picture, because success doesn't have one shape. It's messy, complicated, and deeply personal. Comment below, have you ever been mocked or underestimated for your work? How did you handle it? I want to hear your stories. If this video inspired you, smash that like button and subscribe for more real, raw stories like this. And share this with someone who needs to know their path is valid, no matter what anyone says. Remember, respect isn't given, it's earned, sometimes by surprising those who thought they knew you.